Welcome to Watches with Dennis, and today I am reviewing the Zenith Chronomaster Original, reference 03.3200.3600/69.M3200. This watch is from my personal collection. It's purchased new, and I've owned it about a week and a half at this point. Zenith created one of the first automatic chronograph movements, the El Primero. This watch follows in the design footsteps of one of the early releases with that movement, the A386, and thus offers a very vintage aesthetic with some modern enhancements. So let's go ahead and take some measurements. For a diameter, I get 38 millimeters. For lug to lug, I get 46 millimeters. Watch thickness, I get 12.9 millimeters. And lug spacing is 19 millimeters. This watch offers 50 meters of water resistance. Turning to the dial, you can see a color that Zenith refers to as white matte. I've seen others online in their reviews refer to it as silver, silvery white, or some variant thereof. Up close, you can see that the silver elements are really what provide the matte effect. I would say that the best description is the dial looks more silver in lower light and indoor lighting conditions, whereas if you're in bright light, say direct sunlight, the effect does come across more as a white. It's really worth stressing the color effect because I think a lot of the promotional images, due to all the direct light that they apply, tend to have the dial look more white than silver. But in real life, especially if you look at the watch a lot indoors, you're going to see more of a silvery effect, and I'm hoping I'm accurately capturing that with my recording here. Continuing on with the dial coloration, you can see that there are 3 subdials, and each one is in its own color. The 3 o'clock subdial is in blue, and that is the chronograph's 60-second register. And you can see a dark gray subdial, and that is where the watch has its 60-minute register. Looking over at the 9 o'clock subdial, that is in a light gray, and that is the watch's running seconds. The hour and minute hands are centralized and are in a pencil shape and painted white, and they also are loomed. The central red hand is part of the chronograph function. It sweeps around the dial once every 10 seconds, and thus is there to help you read down to a tenth of a second. There are markings at the chapter ring. You can see here up at the top, it says 1/10 of a second. And that is so you can use that red hand to read down to the 10th of a second. The outer white track is in seconds, and the inner black track is in deciseconds. The watch features applied hour indices, and those are also loomed. The date window is at the 4:30 position. And as you can see, while this is a staple of the El Primero design, it is more of a stark white than the silvery white, so it's not an exact color match to the dial. The dial is protected by a significantly domed sapphire crystal. At the 12 o'clock position of the dial, you can see an applied star, the Zenith star. Just beneath that, printed, is the Zenith branding. As for the loom itself, it offers decent initial brightness for time telling, and let me go ahead and drop in some footage for you that I shot after I recently charged the loom. The watch case is made of stainless steel, as is the bracelet. The surface of the case is primarily brushed, though you can see the thin bezel is actually polished. The sides of the case feature polishing. As for the bracelet, you can see the center links are polished and the sides are brushed. The polished, of course, ends up making it quite a fingerprint magnet and is also a scratch magnet. The crown is signed with the Zenith star, and it offers 3 positions for functionality. In position 0, this is not a screw-down crown, so it can be wound. If you pull the crown out to position 1, that lets us quick set the date as such. If you pull the crown out to position 2, the time can be set and the watch does offer hacking. Push the crown back in and we go back into time telling mode. There are 2 plungers to operate the chronograph. Pushing the top plunger starts the chronograph. If you push it again, that stops the chronograph. And if you push the bottom plunger, the chronograph is reset. This is not a flyback chronograph, so if you push the bottom plunger without stopping the chronograph, it doesn't do anything. You must stop the chronograph in order to reset the chronograph. Going back to the bracelet, or more specifically the bracelet clasp, this is a single fold deployant clasp with a clamshell lock, and you can see that the clasp offers 5 micro adjust positions. The links of the watch are actually affixed with screws on both sides. There are screw heads on both sides. And the way this works is There's actually a hollow pin on one end and a small screw insert on the other. And so these are a bit tricky to remove because you do actually have to secure both screw heads to prevent the pin from just spinning if you were to try and turn one side. Flipping the watch over, you can see that the watch has a display case back, which shows off the caliber El Primero 3600. This is a relatively new movement from Zenith that was launched in 2019, and it is why the watch features a central chronograph hand that can make one turn every 10 seconds. The movement features 35 joules, beats at 5 Hz, hence why the watch can offer a tenth of a second accuracy when using the chronograph for timing, and it provides approximately 60 hours of power reserve. This is a column wheel chronograph. You can see the column wheel over on the right-hand side of the screen here, and relies on a lateral clutch for activation purposes. Putting this watch on my time grapher, I get an average across all 6 positions of plus 1.7 seconds per day. The range of readings was minus 11 seconds per day to plus 7.25 seconds per day. This movement actually registered a lot of variance in each position, so I took multiple readings on my time grapher and then averaged those out because I was noticing that while wearing the watch, it was actually keeping really good time. So just be aware that, at least in my instance, there was a lot of variance and I needed to average multiple times on each position in order to give you an accurate reading. Here is some footage of the watch. As a reminder for those who haven't watched my channel before, my wrist size is 6.75 inches. And here's some footage of the watch outside so you can see some natural lighting with the watch on my wrist. So, what are my overall thoughts on this watch? I'd say 3 main positives are I find it to be a great size, the chronograph functions feel really good, and the watch is quite comfortable to wear. And the one main negative is there are a number of bracelet issues that sort of put this in a tier below other watches of this price point. Speaking of price point, as I recall, Zenith launched this watch on bracelet at $9,000 US. It currently has the watch on its site at $10,000. If you choose to go gray market or used at the time of this recording, this watch generally trades for around $7,000 to $7,500 on bracelet. My only real complaint about the watch is the bracelet. As I said in my summary of positives, it is comfortable to wear, but it could use a few upgrades. Having 5 micro adjust positions helps with getting a good sizing, especially since the watch doesn't offer half links, but it does require a tool in order to adjust those micro positions. Link changing is a huge frustration, and if you're like me, you're going to lack the tools to be able to hold one of the screw heads still without using both hands and 2 screwdrivers in order to accomplish the task. Of course, this is a one-time experience, but I always do note it because link sizing is a big frustration of mine if it's inconvenient, and normally I really like screwed links, but usually I'm just dealing with one screw head. Also, you should note that there is no quick release to make changing the bracelet easy and convenient. Now, the watch, as I noted at the start of the video, does have 19mm lug width, so it's not the most convenient sizing. However, this watch is a strap monster. At this point, there are a lot of 19mm strap options, and it just goes really well with a lot of different strap looks. In fact, you can see from Zenith's website that they have a number of strap options available if you choose to go with something aside from the bracelet. But really, the issues with the bracelet are my only complaint. While the watch on paper sounds small at 38mm, I find that the 3600 movement and the way they've laid out the dial results in a relative ease in being able to tell the time, tell the chronograph's time, and it's even easy to read down to the tenth of a second. The subdials are clearly distinguished thanks to the tricolor approach, and they are clearly marked. I would say that the running seconds at the 9 o'clock position is the hardest to read because you've got white print on a light gray subdial. However, it's also the least important one to read because it's not actually tied to the chronograph. The chronograph functionality feels really good. My only other mechanical chronograph I have significant time on was an H31 movement, which for those that are not familiar is based on the Valjoux 7753. And that is not a chronograph movement that I would ever describe as impressive in terms of how it feels in functionality. The El Primero 3600 offers a far superior experience. The watch itself is sporty, but elegant enough to be at home on a range from casual to more formal settings, especially if you were willing to change up the strap choices. The size keeps it comfortable, and I think it's a pretty viable option for a lot of wrist sizes, at least wrist sizes that would be average to below average in sizing. So maybe once you're getting up past 7¼ to 7½ inches, you might want to try it on first before committing. Thanks for watching this review video. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like. It helps the video and the channel out. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to be automatically notified when I release new videos. Thanks for watching and have a great day.